right, welcome back to another episode of Teacher Nerds Podcast. I'm Ron Nober.
I'm Joe DiPaolo.
I'm a technology teacher, 3rd grade to 8th grade.
I teach 3rd grade.
All right, and we have a special guest with us today. We have Spencer Sharp from Indiana. Welcome, Spencer.
No, thank you for having me. I'm so excited we finally got to do this.
Yeah, it's I guess, you know, Spencer and I have kind of known each other through Twitter for, I guess, little less than a year. So, Spencer, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Spencer Sharp. I teach at a really small school that's like in the middle of a cornfield in Indiana, and it's kind of crazy. I was talking to Ron about it earlier. Basically what happened was I graduated, and I graduated with a concentration in science, mathematics, and engineering, because before I was a business major, and I always excelled in math, so I already took like calculus 2, so they're like, you already pretty much have a concentration in that, so do that. And my now principal called me, and I actually applied for a kindergarten job, which now I'm like, I don't know how I could have ever done that. I think that would have killed me because kindergarten's crazy. And she said, hey, do you want to take this STEM position? And I'm like, oh, you know, what's it all entitled? She said, well, there's just a big room right now, and there's 4 tables in it with just a bunch of junk on it. There's no curriculum. There's no money. Do you want to do it? And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do that. And then I met and talked with her, and it's one of those things I tell a lot of people when you're making, you know, I help a lot of schools in Indiana set up STEM programs or makerspace. I said, as long as your visions align, it usually is successful. And both of our visions were kind of the same thing as far as what we wanted out of the program and what we hoped it would bring. So 3 years later, here I am
Awesome.
doing some more and more each year. And I've really enjoyed it. It's been fun. And I could not be a regular classroom teacher, I don't think. Like if I went back to a regular classroom, I'd probably still just use STEM all the time just because I think the kids love it. And I think I get a lot out of them. So.
Well, I think as a classroom teacher, if you come into it with the STEM background, I think you'll be able to weave it in so much better.
Yes.
Because like even Ron and I talk, and I'm not going to talk, like this isn't my episode to talk, so I'm not going to say much.
No, you're fine.
Just once a month, you know, 3rd grade, we do bring it in and base it off like language arts and science and social studies, because you said it, like the kids get into it. And you know, I love, and Ron will tell you, when the kids don't want to leave your room for the, you know, I get it, they go from 3rd to 4th grade, or everything that's happening now, you know, like why does it happen when we're in Mrs. Bray and Mr. DiPaolo's class? You know, like that's, and it's because we bring that stuff into the classroom, because the kids that normally wouldn't shine now can shine. And it's because they're not all test takers. And when you give them that chance, that's, I mean, it's fun with it. And at 8 years old, you know, you talk about the Legos and stuff. If you don't have that stuff, and then by the time they get to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you know, Ron and I have talked about it before. They don't have the guts to take the chance.
Right.
You know, like that creativity. So no, after all that shoes with a cause, you'd crush it, and you maybe your team members might be like, yo, this guy's out of control.
Yeah, right.
But I'll tell you what, in June, Ron, what happened last year, right? That my whole team came at me and said, can you design something that lasts over the course of the week? And I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it.
And that's kind of, I think the cool part too, is like a lot of times in Indiana, like over the last 2 years, especially, I've spoke at like a lot of districts and schools, and I'll have teachers come up to me and they're like, well, this doesn't apply to me because I teach, you know, this subject. And I remember this one lady, like I said, you know, it is such a big buy-in thing and such a mind switch for the teacher, the students, everybody. And she's like, well, I teach language arts. I can't teach it. And I'm like, you absolutely could. I was like, you could take a book. You could find a problem inside the book. I was like, you could design curriculum around that fact right there. And she actually like emailed me a book, and I never read the book. And I like went and kind of like did Spark Notes on it. And then I said, well, here's what I would do. And I kind of outlined it. And she's like, oh, that's so awesome. Right. She's like, how long did that take you? I'm like, it's just like a mind switch. Like now that my mind works this way, when I hear that, I was like, I just did that like in like half hour. And it's one of those things, like you said, the kids love it then. And then I was like, they're going to be pumped to actually read this book. Cause I was like, I can't tell you how many times in high school, my high school teacher's like, read this book. We're doing a quiz over it. And I just didn't read it because I thought that was so dumb. I'm like, I feel like I'm not going to learn anything, you know? So
I got through most of college without, I didn't read my first book cover to cover till I was 20 some odd years old.
Yep.
And I've given countless book reports. And Ron, were they? No, they weren't called Spark Notes. What were they? Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes.
Right?
Cliff Notes. Yeah.
Cliff Notes. You know, so like and that's why when I see all the books that the kids have today, like our classroom library is stacked. And I don't know if maybe we didn't have those options as a kid, or it was the fact that the last teacher I liked was my third grade teacher. And that teacher was so sit there, you know, we were diagramming sentences and taking notes, and
right.
I hated school. And Ron, what was the article you shared today? Like the best thing I took out of that is kids don't hate to learn, they hate to school.
Right.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was a Will Richardson article.
I couldn't remember.
I think it was Richardson.
Yeah, it was. Yep. This was
it Richardson? Yeah.
And,
I'll share it with you, Spencer, if you want to say it.
Yes, I definitely would.
And then the fact that, you know, these poor kids, you're going from a teacher that's all into it, you know, maybe one period, and then your next teacher is, you know, he said they might have a teacher who, if he sees your phone, like, you're getting written up.
Right. And then somebody who wants you to use your phone next period. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So we'll jump in with our 2 yes more, 1 no way. And we're recording this episode on April 28th. So we're still for us in New Jersey, and I think you, Spencer, in Indiana are still in quarantine, social distancing. So we're going to do quarantine food cravings, 2 yes more, 1 no way. All right, Spencer, you're our guest. Do you want to go first, or do you want to have one of us model it for you? Or
yeah, someone can model it for me, just because I want to make sure I understand it right.
All right, Joe, you want to go, or you want me to go?
I'll go. This is an easy one for me. We've been ordering a lot of takeout, and one of my favorite go-tos is pizza. So pizza once, twice, sometimes even 3 times a week. So my second one, and usually I'm going to say I usually eat good, and I just said I ate pizza 3 times a week. With when we shop, like, usually we don't hit the sugary aisles and the snacks. I've been having a cheat and licorice, chocolate licorice by Twizzlers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes Stacy will come home with 2 packs, like a chocolate and then like cherry pull and peel. So those are some tough weeks for me. Because I have a sweet tooth, and my one no way when all of this happened, I guess I went shopping on March. I guess it was either the day before or the day after St. Patrick's Day. So I was trying to load up on Staples, and there was nothing left. So I'm just grabbing what I thought were black beans, and it was cream of black bean soup. Is what I grabbed, and I grabbed like all these bags of white rice, and then like 12 cans of that, what I thought were black beans, and guess what we still have in the pantry? Yeah, so
probably will have continually in the pantry.
Well, you know what's funny? Stacy's like, well, like, I guess eventually I'll eat. Like, Stacy will eat anything,
right?
And since she's our banker, she's not going to let it go to waste.
Right.
But I definitely that's my one no way.
All right. Do you want to give it a roll, Spencer?
Yeah. So talking about carry out here in Decatur, we actually have a small barbecue restaurant.
Nice.
And we love it, and it's really, really good. I like cooking barbecue too. So when we're not getting carry out from there, I cook barbecue. I have like a couple smokers actually. I like doing it. It's kind of fun for me.
Wait, you have a couple smokers?
Yeah, I got one a couple years ago, and then I talked my wife into letting me buy another one, and then I built one, of course.
Oh, nice.
I'm a STEM teacher, so yeah, I have a little too many. I have too many of them. So I like using them though, and my buddies and me in the summer we like to do barbecue competitions. So I'm a pretty big rib guy. I would say ribs right now. I've had ribs more often than I probably should during quarantine.
Okay.
And then my next thing, you're talking about sweet tooth. So this actually changed from what I kind of wrote down. My wife came home with a 5-pound bag of sour gummy worms.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
5-pound bag.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was playing video games with my buddies the one night, and I was just snacking on them. I looked over and it was like almost gone. I'm like, that is not good, honestly. So that's one thing I'm like, man, that was really good. And if she got it again, it wouldn't be good, but I really liked it. And then the thing that I'm kind of the person you say at your house, like your wife, like I'll eat anything. The only thing I will not eat is bananas, and it's purely a texture thing. Like I'm just not a big bananas guy.
Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah, my wife likes them, and they're at our house, so I'm like, no way, I would never. That's the one thing I wouldn't eat in the house.
How about like in a shake? Like in a breakfast shake?
Yeah, like sometimes, like I'll drink protein shakes, and I've had like a banana chocolate one. Yeah. That doesn't bother me as much. It's just more or less the texture.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like the only thing I won't eat. So.
And we go through bananas and eggs like they're going out of style in our house, and bananas and eggs for protein.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, that would crush me.
All right, so mine, I would say the one thing I'm craving that I haven't gotten would be a good big burger. Ooh. You know, not like a McDonald's, Burger King burger, but like, you know, Joe, our Jersey diner burgers.
Isn't the diner open?
Vincenttown is not.
Oh.
It is completely shut down.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Red Lion Diner. We have 2 diners about equal distance from my house in the town where we live. And both, the one is open, the one is closed. And Vincenttown has some crazy burgers.
And like choice good burgers.
Yeah, right. Really, really good burgers. And the other thing, we did some takeout, and I got a shrimp scallop and crab meat.
Ooh.
Pasta fra diavolo, so a little spicy with penne, red sauce.
Where was that from?
From Upper Crust.
Was it good? From a pizza place?
Yeah. It was really good.
You guys from a pizza place.
Yeah.
That was 40 miles from the beach.
Yeah.
You are brave.
Yo, it was good.
Huh. I've been craving seafood and prime rib, not necessarily the burger, but prime rib. Yeah. And man, you got Ron.
And my one no way has to be, we have way too much soup in the house, and I've had because we stocked up, you know, and I've had my fill of soup. I'm kind of done with soup.
We made soup today. There's soup. We're having soup for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
he's gonna have to send some over to your house.
Yeah. All right. So that was a little fun.
Yeah.
So
Spencer, hold on, Spencer. I'm gonna be texting you for some rib stuff.
Yeah.
do it. Absolutely.
We have. Oh man, especially with the summer off.
Usually we get like 2 or 3 barbecue competitions in, but the ones that we do, they're not. One of them they said they're not doing. The other 2 they said they're unsure. So.
Yeah, Ron, we should do a meet like this again, and everyone bring their own barbecue.
Yeah, there
we go.
Our next podcast show.
So, you know, Spencer, you and I, we kind of connected over Twitter on, I had done this Shoes for a Cause project in the fall, and Chris Woods had put up something about a shoe project, and I commented on what I did, and you had commented, and we connected. And, you know, in the winter, we came up with the Shoes for a Cause project, and you kind of made the biggest impact into what happened with it by saying, hey, let's auction them off. You know, and it was awesome. We brought the SDGs in, we brought STEM in, you know, and then auctioned them off. And I think we wound up raising over $450 for the tag schools in Africa. So
right.
It was so cool. How did your kids like the project?
Honestly, I thought my favorite part about it was, and you were saying how I was such a big part of it. I feel like you were such a big part of it. And I actually, right before we got the quarantine thing going on, with everybody, our school board had a meeting and they recognized that project for our school.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I had to get up and I had to talk about it, and they probably got sick of hearing your name because I said like 10 times, like, yeah, I learned so much. And I was like, it's so cool because we got to, you know, kind of partner with this school. And I was like, you know, maybe next year we do a Google Meet or we get to hang out and see them. I was like, we want to do more and more with each year. And the school board members thought it was really cool. And then on the other end, I thought it was cool, and my students thought it was cool because like I showed them the Google site, and that got them really excited about Google, Google site and making websites. So next year,
cool.
yeah, so next year my kids want to put all their projects on like a Google site. So
That's
they basically
awesome.
want to have like a portfolio online.
Awesome.
So I mean, just even doing the project like that, like I said, helped. And also I think that was the first time I've ever used the SDGs.
Right.
I've heard of them prior, but like when you told me, I was like, I heard of it, never really had time to kind of explore them and get into them. And I thought that was really cool because then when the kids presented, at least in my room, I got to find out what they were passionate about.
Right.
And I thought that was neat.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because, obviously we couldn't do that project or time and this whole, pandemic kind of, took away from that project a little bit, this marking period. Right. But I worked with the art teacher and we had them do something similar. And it's amazing when you see the passion that comes alive when they take one of these problems that are out there. And Joe, I know you with the koala.
Well, and like, project. Well, you were saying like, not just, like something that's out there that they're into, that they care about, and it's, they're interested in things and to what's it called? Like to take the shackles off, right. And to let them hold on something. That's it. And we did start with the SDGs and it was all based on seeing, Dr. Jennifer Williams and it's like, oh, we could do this. And it just rolled into persuasive writing so easily and, writing speeches and with video and public service announcements. And it just so happened that everything coincided with the bushfires and the kids were like, can we do something with this? Yeah, you do whatever you want. And it was after a couple of weeks, we raised over, our goal was 200. It went, I think, almost 3 weeks. And we ended up raising a little bit over $500 that we're sending to the Adelaide Koala Rescue in Australia. And we saw that off of an episode of Bondi Vet. So like, the kids are seeing the bushfires on the news, things, they're passionate about this. And they're like, it does fit under the SDGs because it's all about land. And so like now they're hearing things on the news at home and making those connections to what's going on at school. So it's not just, there is no divide like going to school and then coming home from school. Yeah. It's learnings all over the place. And, so it was probably about 3 weeks and we, it was lunch periods and we teamed up with another classroom. And this other teacher, and she had 3 other adults in the room, all the legwork they did. And it was just because, so there was probably 30 students, 10 from the other room, 20 from mine, and that are just running every day. It was like health lessons. And Spencer, we run an RTI period, which, are you guys familiar with RTI? And yeah. Okay. So, if we give them time to do Spark projects if they're not receiving other services. So they do have like 3 periods a week where they're like, can I do this? And then it was brought into a health project. I mean, it just snowballed. And then it came into reading where, all right, well, we got to read about bushfires and the kids are using video and Ron does the morning announcements. So our kids are on the morning announcements for the schools talking about, oh, well, what's a bushfire? Well, a bushfire happened. And these kids are walking through the school and they're like, yo, that's McKinley, that's Curran. And all of a sudden, like these little kids are like making a difference. So it all stops and the little girl goes, why does it have to stop? And I was like, Sarah, I'm tired. Like, I guess it doesn't have to stop. I said, we can, pursue it in a different manner. But, and it was great because Ron had just got the printer machine. Yeah. So as all 30 kids, we came together and they decided on the name Dollars for Koalas. After, a bunch of names were put up and voted on. Same with designs and logos. And the one design won out, got printed on a poster. And, like there was, all this came together from 8 and 9-year-old kids. Right. And that, to me, that's the amazing thing. And the fact that they don't want it to end. And they're excited about coming back to school and doing things. And we started a news network showcasing what the kids are doing. And Ron, I put up a Flipgrid channel as I guess their way to sign on and tell me like what I want to do. And I always on and say, all right, I'm going to try and get in contact with your parents. You know, we'll set up a meet. And it's like, they're passionate about things. And it's just so cool to see them foster. And they're like, I want to come back to school because I got to do this. I'm like, you know, like, let's not come back this year. Like, we can do it all from home. And I know, you know, they miss our time in the class. And I said, to me, that's the worst thing, because the third marking period, we do trimesters. The third trimester in our class, to me, is the best time to be in there. You know, all the grunt work, I don't want to say is done, because we still have the state testings coming up, and you know, but it's almost like we can have so much more fun because they understand how the room works, and by, you know, January, February, we're a well-oiled machine.
Right.
You know, March 3rd marking period comes, and it's a lot more maker projects, a lot more, you know, with UDL, and a lot less of us saying this is how we do it. Now it's doing it, and you know, it stinks because
I know it.
It's so much fun when you or I guess it could be so much fun when you're there.
Yeah, and especially with those kind of projects too, like for the Shoes for the Cause project, I actually turned that into the state because I'm a PBL trainer for our state. So I get to train other teachers, and they thought that was like the coolest project ever. That's and awesome. I remember being like, and they were like, oh, you could have done it, you know, you could have kept on doing this and this, is because I mean, they have like 97 trainers. So we give each other feedback, and I was like, man, by the end of it, you're so tired. But then when you're done, I remember like messaging you on Twitter and being like, oh, next year we could do this. Next year we could get more teachers to do it. And we could do this. So it's cool because like you said, I mean, you could always do more, and the kids want to do more. And that's how you know it's working. You know, I mean, that's good teaching practice, I think, when they come to me and they say, oh, you know, I really want to do this. Or I know one of my students actually went on and bought their shoes. They asked their parents,
did they really?
They asked their parents if they could use their allowance, which I actually thought was
that's awesome.
Cool. So
that's cool.
I think they spent like $60.
Wow.
And she was pumped about it, and I was like, that is so cool that you want your shoes. She's like, yeah. And now I want to be a designer, and I thought that was really cool too, because now she's a career. And before that, honestly, with that kid, the biggest thing was she just didn't really try that hard in school because she just didn't see the point. And that was so me, like you were saying earlier, there's so many kids that aren't test takers. Like I wasn't a test taker. I didn't do well on tests. And I was always questioning my teacher. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, this seems so pointless.
Right.
And that's like one of my things in my room. I'm like, if I do something, I want to be able to look at a kid and say, you know, well, this applies to this in your life, or this is something that you can take with you, or, you know, this is something you're passionate about, so you should do it. And I think that's the biggest thing when we're doing different projects. And when I do different things in my room, I try to, you know, make sure that, you know, it's something a kid wants to do and wants to be there, rather than making them feel miserable all the time. Because I mean, we all remember being in that teacher's room where we just felt miserable the whole time. And I'm like, I don't want to be that teacher. That's not why I did it. I mean, I do what I do. And I think that's the biggest thing.
And I know in my beginning, this is my 13th year. I think in the beginning of the year, my teaching career, I was that teacher, you know, like I didn't know any better. So, you know, I might've yelled at a kid, and well, probably not might've, I yelled at a kid, you know, and you know, taken a recess because you didn't have your homework. And now I'm like, yo, you don't have homework? Good for you. High five. You went out and played, like, you know, so I think that my whole outlook on thing has changed so much. But and even going into it, I'm like, I'll never be that, you know, I won't say the lady's name, but I'll never be such and such. And I'm like, man, I might have, you know, I might not have, I was fun, and you know, it was always a good time, but the discipline sometimes might have been to not scream, but you know what I'm saying? Like, Spencer, what grade are your kids?
Mine, I actually get K through 6. I get the whole elementary building.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So the way you're kind of in my boat too. Like I'm 3 to 8.
Yeah. So I'll get like a 6th grade group. I got like every grade is split up into 4 groups, and I'll get a group per week for about 50 to 55 minutes. So, and the nice part, like you were saying, like routine wise, with the way my rotation works, we'll use the engineering design process or most of the time. And we'll kind of adapt it to like the PBL model if we need to, or another type of model maybe, depending on the project. But they know like Monday that they come in, we'll talk about the problem in their groups. They'll do a little research and then we'll share, and then they draw it up, and then they build it, and then we test it, and then we redesign. But like the shoe project for me took like a couple months. So it actually took a couple weeks, and it looks so much different for the kids, but they actually enjoyed it because usually they get to kind of like do research on their own. I kind of oversee it. Whereas a lot of the shoe stuff was new to me too. So we were all kind of doing research together, and it was kind of fun for me because I found myself like Googling things with them, because they're like, well, my shoe fits, but when I press down, because they would wear them, when I press down, my foot comes out. And I'm like, well, how do shoe companies prevent that from happening? And I was stunned by how much science was behind a shoe. Like,
yeah,
I was
right.
like, I mean, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Cause I remember like after my first group, it's always hard because then I got to kind of pretend to teach like I did for that second group.
Right.
Yeah. So that second group, I remember being like, you are going to learn so much science about a shoe. And they looked at me and they're like, that is the dumbest thing you've said to us all year. And I'm like, you just wait and see. So,
but you're bringing science into everyday life, and
right.
Yep.
Like that's all of a sudden now there's a reason to pay attention in science class.
Exactly. Yeah.
Had you done a project with another class, like from another state before? This was my first time.
It was my first doing it with a different state, different school like that. So I enjoyed it. I wish there was like a website where you could like go find teachers like that and want to do. I was like,
there's an idea.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
That's right. We need the rights to that.
Yeah, right. So why don't you go into a little bit, I know you have your website, the SharpBldr website, and I know you have your Teachers Pay Teachers, and you put a lot of cool content on there. Can you give us a little bit of insight into that?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, with everything going on, everything is so much different than it used to be with remote learning. So just doing some different things, like even last week, I will usually write up curriculum. And if I think it's cool and other teachers would like it, I put it on my store or my website. One I recently did that I thought was cool is I did a mask project. So my kids all made masks from different materials at their home. And then we talked about like air quality, why a mask is important. And a lot of parents actually reached out to me and they're like, man, this made my kid feel really comfortable during a difficult time.
Ah, that's really cool.
And the testing behind it was cool too. I did a video. I think I might have put it on Twitter. I made a mask and I put it on, and then my wife threw like light lit material at me, like flour, for example, to see if it would pass through my mask in any way. Because she works at a hospital, so I'm like, hey, how does an N95 mask work?
Right.
Yeah, so I figured out that the N95 actually stands for 95% of particles. So when you're wearing an N95, it gets 95% of unwanted particles away from your mouth. Wow. And she said that when they get fitted at work, they put it on and they put you in a room and they say, hey, can you taste something? And they basically put stuff in the air that you should be able to not be able to taste if your mask fits correctly.
Oh,
wow.
So that's when I came up with like throwing stuff at the mask. So all these parents are throwing flour at their kids' face.
I was going to say, and your wife got to throw stuff at you. Yeah. So like, it was all good.
Yeah. So she's like, this is the coolest project you've done by far. I'm like, I know. But then I had a bunch of parents be like, that was really fun. So that's one I did recently. And lately I've just been trying to make different products like that. And lately I've been trying to do like cool, fun stuff. Like right beside me, even though this kind of looks like trash right now, I did a video. I'm gonna start a YouTube channel, I think, just because I've never done it and I've always been kind of nervous to do it, just because I'm like, I don't know how good it'll be. But now I'm just gonna
do it,
man. Yep.
Do it.
So I made a video today of like one of the projects I'm gonna upload for my kids, where we make a newspaper stool, and then I'm gonna upload that to my store. So a lot of times I just like to do stuff that I know is gonna be educational, fun. There's gonna be a little bit of science behind it, and I always explain that part. And I think the cool part is, at least with my students, I always say when I tell them something like, hey, you're going to learn about kinetic energy in this project about roller coasters. When I was a kid, when my teacher told me that, one ear out the other, did not hear it. But I was like, if I build it or I watched a video about it or I thought something was cool, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. So I always like to have, different videos from YouTube, different ways for them to learn. And I don't know. I'm just really passionate about doing hands-on learning like that. Just like, I feel like you guys are a lot like me in school. Like you were just like, I feel like there's so many kids out there that are so smart, but so undervalued.
Oh yeah.
and it's nuts. It really is.
And you see it. I mean, I think I've seen now, being in this distance learning environment, there are some of the students that, and I've said this to Joe, that in the past were not your thriving students in class, but in this distance learning environment are crushing it.
Oh yeah.
And then some of the students who are your high flyers are struggling a little bit because it's not there is no game to school right now. I'm not going to tell you what's on a test, because I'm not really given a test, and it's more about being in charge of your own learning at this point. So yeah, I mean, that's been really neat to see.
Yeah, and I mean that's like, I think the coolest part about this, and like, even so this was during the school year, and then talking about this is kind of like a cool story I like to tell more recently to people. There's this kid at our school, and he is, I would say, probably 2 or 3 grade levels above where he needs to be, but he's so bored because they're just teaching him things, and he gets in trouble all the time, but he never gets in trouble in my room. So there for about like 6 months of this last year, they're like, hey, if he's good, can he come down to your room and just hang out and like build stuff? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine with me. So he started coming down to my room, and I gave him a tote, had some wires, had a 3D pen in it, battery, some other stuff. And I'm like, here, I want you to build a car, because I knew he loved cars. And he built a car in like a couple months, and he learned so much from that. And I'm like, I didn't even necessarily tell him anything. So I think so much of the time it's about that kind of stuff. And he actually, the other day, messaged me on Instagram, and I don't know why he did it on my SharpBldr account. He's like, hey, how you doing, Mr. Sharp? And I was like, oh, good. I was like, have you been, doing your homework and stuff? He's like, me, I'll get it done at the last minute. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. And I was like, and then for 6th grade, I let them pick their own project. I had a list. And then one of them said, create your own. And I said, I thought of you when I thought I'd create your own. I said, what are you going to do? He's like, oh, I don't know. He goes, I haven't started, which isn't good that he hasn't started. But I was like, I think you should do something really cool, with something you're passionate about. And he's like, well, I've been working on my dirt bike. I'm like, work on your dirt bike, do something cool to it. And I was like, literally send it to me, and that's fine. I was like, send me a flip grid. Well, we have like a flip grid of all of our projects going on right now. I'm like, just post in there. And I was like, I just want to know what you're doing. He's like, that's STEM. I'm like, yeah, it's STEM. And so much of the time with this remote learning, I feel like the kids now are in charge of their learning, and they take so much like pride and passion in it.
Right? Absolutely.
And I've had so many kids like reach out to me being like, oh, like I've been working on this project. Can I Zoom you just to show you? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, I love that you're excited about this during this time and you're learning something. It's not like you're sitting around, just filling out and copy and pasting, some assignment. You're actually learning and applying something.
That's why I did our news network, because one of my criteria is to come on and tell us about what you were doing. It has to be about something outside of school. Like, I don't, everyone has a chance to do reading homework or to do math homework. Like, exactly. I don't care about that. That's not what the news story is about. And it was like, it's cool to see them take ownership. Now we have bright kids that are doing just like little Mickey Mouse things, and like posting questions like, I don't know why something is here, as opposed to like just silly things. And that's that's what I think is cool, that when we go and have those meets with our groups of kids, and we're not that we call anyone out, because I would never want to call anyone out, in a bad way in public, but I do want students to know, like, yo, you did something wrong. But then, you obviously you compliment them, but the kids that are getting a majority of these compliments normally wouldn't be getting those types of compliments in class for the stuff they're doing. And it might, at 3rd grade, it might be because there's a parent at home, and where we're in the inclusion classroom. So it's myself and a special ed teacher.
Right.
And that we do a lot of small group and, with all of the kids, but to be able to have someone there with you one-on-one all the time, like that's almost a perfect scenario. If that person is going to, back off when they need to and let you struggle, which that's why, I don't want to say I'm not grading. We're commenting, but I see kids doing stuff. So I'm like, that's 100. And if it's not grammatically correct, if you missed a comma or we're doing fairy tale adaptations, and these kids are writing these phenomenal beginnings. I read one today, no punctuation. And I'm like, you know what? Right now, I'm not grading punctuation. What I'm grading is your ideas. Like, are you able to take original fairy tale and adapt and do the things we've talked about, like show, not tell, and, you know, give it, I mean, I'm like, 100. You're the, you know, you rock. I can't wait to see what happens. One kid's doing the, what was it? Little Red, instead of the gingerbread man, the ninja bread man.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know what? I'm like,
and there's your STEM project. Make some of his tools for the ninja bread man, right?
There you go.
Well, you know, and that's it, you know, and a lot of the parents that I'm talking to, you know, we do 2 assignments a day. So it's math and science one day, reading and writing the next day.
I like that.
Math and social studies the 3rd day, reading and writing again the 4th day, and then Friday is a what I need day. So no new curriculum, no new instruction. We have our meets if kids need to catch up on anything. You know, that's what Friday's for. And this is a fairy tale unit. Normally we would write 3 or 4 fairy tales, and we're looking for the kids to do like an hour a day of academic work. And then, you know, I have a website where there's, hey, use WeVideo to make a commercial about a book, or, hey, look at these 4 different activities. There was a 30-day Lego challenge. I think it was Chris Woods, was it, Ron? Did the Leaf Project. Someone I saw on Twitter do like, you know, so
I think that's him.
Yeah, I think it was him.
Yeah, that was him.
You know, like, so there's all those little extra things up there. But normally we would write 4 fairy tales. Or 4 adaptations and then their own. I'm like, you know what? Let's write your own fairy tale over the course of the next 2 weeks. And then we'll have 2 weeks to say, all right, now what's this character and this fairy tale need? Let's prototype it. Let's make it. Let's show it. And is it going to help with writing? Maybe not writing a fairy tale, but you know what? Like, then they could say, you know, this is a how-to website on how I made the Ninja Bread Man's staff, or, you know, something like that.
His spaghetti staff.
Yeah, you know. But to just make, not that school can't be fun, but from here on out, you know, like if I can get these kids through a fairy tale genre and have them understand beginning, middle, and end, you know, all the stuff from narrative writing, great. Now let's have fun with it, because
and I think too, a lot of times it's like, if you have an idea like that where kids are really pumped about it, like I know me, when I'm like really pumped about an idea, I'm more willing to learn about something and take criticism, you know what I mean? And that's like, even in my classroom when we test, I just tell the kids, I'm like, I always use this model. I don't know who I even borrowed this from. But I always say, give that group 2 things that you thought was great about their testing and 1 thing that you wish they would change. And that like 1 thing, they're always like, oh, I never thought about that.
Right.
And I mean, it's something that usually they notice because they might have picked up on something a little bit more. And I feel like just like that little bit about an idea you're passionate about, you're more willing to change something so small or something little, like punctuation, you know?
We talk in 3rd grade, we use the tag system for that, because we do something and then show, like, we want to showcase our stuff to get that feedback. So on like websites that we put in Google Classroom, we'll say, don't just say it's cool. We have to use the tag system to respond. So tell them what you liked, ask them a question if you didn't understand, and then give a suggestion. And it is cool to see, you know, little, I guess, what's it like, the market, right? Like they're putting their product out there, they're testing it out for everyone, and then, you know, based on what such and such said. Now at 8 years old, sometimes they're like, oh, well, I like him and I don't necessarily like her, and girls don't know. But you know, like it's just the process, and you know, I do sometimes I feel bad for the kids if they are bouncing forth, and I hear all the time, especially from the parents whose students have IEPs. You know, we have heated conversations, and they're like, well, what if they don't have a teacher like you, Mr. DePaulo, next year? I said, well, you know what? Then you call me and we figure out how to have your son be successful in that kind of classroom. But, you know, I had my son I told my son when he had some issues with his teacher, I said, email her back and say, where does it say that in the rubric? And he goes, what? What's a rubric? I said, exactly. She never gave you the rubric. So, you know, like there's, if school is going to be a game, in order to win at the game, you got to play it a certain way. And I'm a full believer in that. And you know, we run a parent helpline. If a parent calls me with a question and I can open up, you know, we're K to, I'd be on the 3rd to 5th grade. So I have access to the whole K through 6 math program. What are you having a problem with? Number 7? Well, the answer is 12. So let's, you know, like, let's figure out either, you know, cause I just, I think some of the stuff is crazy that the kids have to bounce through and what the hoops they're asked to jump through. And it's a stressful situation.
It is. And I remember I always say me and my principal, like I said, when our visions, like we were talking about that, one of the things that we discussed was standardized testing, obviously. And I said, hey, I might, you know, teach things that are going to be on that test, but I'm not going to do regurgitation. I'm not doing that. I'm going to have them apply it. I said, if they want me to play the game, I'm going to play the game to win, but I'm going to do it in a way that I think works. Right. And even like our science test scores after the first year of STEM went up like 15, 20%. And they had 4 or 5 questions on there that were like, you know, application questions about certain science things that we did that year. Like there was even one I remember we did a drag race unit where I built like a ramp, and the kids actually made buttons with makey-makeys, and then they made the equations to calculate their times.
Oh, wow.
And we did a tournament, and they thought that was so cool. And then the test came around and had a question about 2 cars going down a hill and how you would calculate their time. I mean, that's just crazy coincidence, obviously, but I was like, they're wanting you to apply the knowledge there, so why not teach them in a way that's fun?
So that means so that was a part of your quote unquote curriculum, right, or the state's curriculum, and that was a standardized test. So that at least makes me believe that what they're asking on the test is from the curriculum that we're supposed to be teaching.
Exactly.
That's why you don't teach the test, right? Because if you did it X, Y, and Z, you might have never had that experience with the kids and then get it. As opposed to, I know when I was in science, it was, I mean, my whole educational career is probably, I think, why Ron and I have such a good rapport with the teacher nerd stuff, because I had a horrible experience. I was a horrible student. I didn't care. So now it's like, all right, what could I have done to have excited like the 3rd grade Joe or the 5th grade Joe or the high school Joe who failed health and had to go to summer school for it, because I didn't know they were serious about that stuff. And then, you know, to have such a tough time in college just because I didn't care and fail classes and work the weekend and register for next semester and fail that. And it was like, until it was like, yo, I do care about, you know, I don't want to be a waiter for the rest of my life. So let me figure, you know, college, you got to show up and pay attention. That ain't hard. Let's, you know, like, let's do it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things, like you said, like that's how the way they want us to teach it. And I remember, I think it was last year, Indiana, their science standards, they like renew them and change them every so many years. And I got invited to that meeting, and I was like, they're going to probably regret this, because every time they had a standard, I would say, here's how I would teach it. And they're like, yeah, because science is all about applying. I'm like, yeah, and the standards and the way we're teaching it should apply to that. And I mean, it's not just with science, it's with every subject. Right. But I just happened to be there for science, and I was like, you know, I mean, I remember I saw like a standard, and I was like, this is exactly how I would teach it. And there was like an older teacher there, and they're like, no. And I'm like, no, this is the way I would teach it. And I'm saying that applying that knowledge, that kid won't forget that. Right. And I was like, the way you want to teach it, you're going to tell that kid to remember it. He's going to remember it for Friday's test, and then he's going to forget it. Because that's what I did. I mean, I did that because my mom was a teacher. So like I had to be good or she would get mad at me. Yeah. Which I'm glad she worked with me. But she also told me a lot of times, she's like, because I struggled. So she would work with me individually, and she would kind of apply it to my world. And I always thought that was cool, because I'm like, see, now it makes sense to me and I like it, rather than the teacher that just told me to remember it. And I think in education, or I hope, I guess, not necessarily think, that we see that change everywhere in all standards, all states, because I mean, these different programs you're seeing pop up, whether it's a makerspace, a STEM lab, you know, a PBL room or classroom or whatever, they're being used so effectively. And even like businesses and jobs are like, man, we're finally getting employees that have the one skill we want them to have, and that's critical thinking, you know, and problem solving.
I couldn't believe Dylan plays football, and about 3 or 4 years ago, one of his buddies' dad, he's a machinist, And I remember him saying, these kids can't think for themselves. And we had, it was a solid argument. And I started thinking, I'm like, damn, he's right. Like our multiplication unit in third grade, it's 4 chapters first off of multiplication. And it's like, this is how you multiply something by 7.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, yo, how would you, you give them every strategy and you spoon feed them. And I started to think like, damn, yeah. And then we started to get into the making stuff and maybe it wasn't design thinking at first, but then the more we evolved around things, like, yeah, they don't, because, I get little 8-year-olds that go, this is hard. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Let's cry about it, because crying about it fixes it. Okay, good. Tears are gone now. Let's try something. Like we have a big epic failure board because that's it. Like,
I love that.
It's a test. It's right but I'll tell you what, it is hard to get
them
those
to put
kids
it on.
up on the board.
Is it? That's something I feel like I would try, and people would tell me like, "Oh, that's really cool." I wish I would have thought of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, Ron and I, that was from Glenn, right? Glenn Robbins, like years ago.
Yeah, I think it was.
Because I actually, after we heard him talk about it, I ended up texting him through Twitter a couple months later saying, yo, what was that board called? And he told me shower board. You went into Lowe's and buy shower board. I think it was 6 feet by 8 feet. It was like $10 at the time. So, I cut a whole bunch of pieces up and carefully brought it into my room without really anyone seeing me. And, I got a circular saw in this hand, drill in this hand, like, and my bulletin board, I put it up on there and it's, Ron made me a big epic failure sign with the engraving machine.
With the laser engraver, yeah.
And, I'm the first one up. Mr. DiPaolo failed health class and had to go to summer school in high school. Mr. DiPaolo failed English 101 3 times in college. and it's like.
See, that's what I would put my name on it first, because did they
Exactly.
like accept it more once you put your name on it? Because I feel like if I put my name on it, then they'll be like, okay, now I feel okay with doing that.
Well, and then we do those projects. And then it's like, oh, yeah, that didn't work. Well, and there are literally kids crying. With the first time we did, I think it was you did something with your science lesson, right, with severe weather.
Yeah, so I was just looking. He's got the shelters for severe weather project.
Yep. So
Joe does a big one.
A couple years ago, we did that around Christmas, and I threw up a picture of Santa Claus like this and a broken house. And I was like, guys, Christmas is canceled. Like, look what Santa has to do.
That's awesome.
The kids were like, and I'm like, let's see what we can do to help Santa. So kids were making things and we, Ron and I took this project so much further than the original picture, but we had a girl out of newspaper build a 6-foot tall house for Santa and her wife. And at lunchtime, or his wife, at lunch, right before lunch, the thing collapsed. And it came down with all of her, she was broke. And she spent the entire recess, a 12-minute recess, pacing the softball field with her hood up and crying. and the kids are like, Emily's crying. I said, that's cool. I can see her. She's crying right there. Let her cry. And she came back in, and it wasn't 6 feet high. It was like 3 feet high and 6 feet wide and, 5 or 6 feet deep. And to me, that's it. It's like, I tried to do this. And when it collapsed, I had to do this. So it's like, you're not a failure.
Right.
You don't do those projects. And those kids at 8 years old, I failed my first test in 4th grade. I got a 60 on a science test. I'll never forget it. And that's the same teacher, when she told us to shut up. I started doing, I like the beach and I like waves. So I was doing this on the desk. She came up behind me. I didn't even see her. Scared the shit out of me. She grabbed both my wrists. She picked me up out of the desk, and she threw me back down. And she said, "I said sit still." Like, holy crap! Yeah. And from 4th grade on, through college, like, I was a horrible student. And you fail a test. I guess I'm an idiot. And it so happened that I was working at a restaurant, and the community college I could work the weekend and afford the semester. So I had failed so much by then. I'm like, I'm not a failure. I just didn't pass that class. So you have to give those kids the opportunity to fail and learn from that failure.
Hey, I got a suggestion for you, Joe, Epic Failure Board. As you have adults come into your room, ask them to sign up on your Epic Failure Board.
That's awesome.
That you're talking about, principals coming in, vice principals, parents. What's your epic failure?
I'll tell you what, Ron,
then you're going to get them more comfortable with putting something up there.
I'm glad you said that, because seriously, like, I was teetering, like, it's a decent sized space. So I'm like, can I utilize it better?
Yeah. Keep it up.
Yeah.
I say keep it up and invite.
Yeah. I want to do one in my room now. So can you send me a picture of it?
Yeah.
You don't mind? Because I'm like kind of wanting to do it now. I'm like, this sounds awesome.
And originally I had, like different colored construction paper, but then we saw, that dry erase stuff. Oh man, like, cause it's up there for 1 year. It went off like a bomb, and the kids were all over the place. But then I'll tell you, I don't know what happened. Like maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, I remember saying something to a little girl, and it was like, I don't want to be a failure. No, don't put me up on the board. And I'm like, okay.
Calm down. Yeah.
Like, you see me up all over there, right? It's all cool. But, like, don't call me a failure. I said, okay, I'm not, like, no one's a failure. But I do. I like the idea of inviting adults in.
Yeah.
Because it's huge. Like, that's why I tell the kids at back to school night, I had parents cracking up. And a lot of these parents are like, oh, so you're telling me there's hope for Johnny? I'm like, hell yes. This kid's 2 years old and in third grade. I didn't figure it out till I was 25 or 26. Like, why write them off at 8 years old, especially if they've had a teacher, right, the past 2 years, asking them to sit there and be quiet. Granted, you can't grab kids now, but man, that lady grabbed me like like I was a steak, and I need to be tenderized. I was like, holy crap.
That's funny.
So, I know you put out the other day, like you had a bunch of Lego task cards.
Yeah. What
were some of the, some of the tasks that you had? I'm looking on your Teachers Pay Teacher. It's like 66 different task cards.
Oh,
yeah. So I actually started out. It's kind of a funny story how they came about. So my first year doing the STEM stuff, I thought I pretty well had figured out 6th grade, 4th grade, third grade for the most part, and 2nd grade. And then 1st grade, I was like, oh, this is kind of hard. Sometimes I get bored. In kindergarten, it was like a whole new ball game. I remember I made probably a month's worth of curriculum, and they went through it in like a day and a half. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was like trying to think about some different things that I learned that I could apply maybe to my room. So what I kind of came up with is I started doing like these little like maker stations, so kids could come in and they could build what they wanted. And I had these different stations, and I got Legos donated. So then what I started to do was I would say, you can build what you want, but then I'd always have a kid come to me and be like, I'm not creative. I can't figure out what to build. And I'm like, that stinks. So then that's when I first came up with the Lego task cards, and I just kind of wrote like random open-ended questions. Like I know one of them that comes to my top of my head is like I posted a Twitter video about it. The kids had to make some kind of vending machine.
Yeah.
So a little girl made a gumball machine.
Yeah, it was awesome.
She actually put something in, and the gumball fell out.
Out of Legos?
Yeah.
Like out of special Legos or just regular Legos?
She made it like flat, and she made it so it like sat on a piece, and when she punched the piece out, it went like down and under.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was like, man, that's really, like, her mom sent it to me, and I was like, can I post that on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere? She's like, yeah, absolutely.
Man.
So that's one that kind of sticks out in my mind. But like, I always try to do ones that I just think of random things, and I literally, like, in the morning sometimes will sit there and make lists of things kids could build. My goal is to get like 120 at least up on there, just because I think kids like using them. I remember I was in Lego Club when I was in like 3rd grade. So every month I would get Lego would send me something, and they'd have like a problem like that, like a task, and you would have to build and then take a picture, and then you would back then mail it to them. You couldn't post it on social media. So then I would send it in. I never got in the magazine, but I always thought that was cool, and it made me want to build. So that's when I kind of started doing the Lego task cards, and that's kind of like what they would entitle was I remember I did one like that. I did one where you build a boat. One of them was like your mom's having a bad day. Can you build something to help her clean the house?
Oh,
So
wow.
sometimes even it's like I try to do things with, different family members or different things at school. Like one of them I had like a teacher appreciation, make something for your teacher.
And
That
do
makes
you,
them happy.
like, do you design them like fancy like, or is it just like something in Word and like a whole?
So I have like a Canvas subscription. So like I used to, before I actually had my teaching job out of high school, something that kind of got me also, I didn't mention this, but I actually worked for a app building company. So
cool.
I learned how to code there, and I learned how to do Photoshop, Illustrator,
Cool.
Canva, and some other apps. So what I did was I just made like a Lego little like border, and then I just put the task on the inside.
Okay, cool.
Put it on Teacher Pay Teachers. People print them off, and really I've had a lot of people tell me like, man, these are awesome. I remember there's this one lady, her son's autistic, and she bought those from me, and she reached out and she's like, my son loves those. Like every day he wants to, she cut them up and put them like in a hat for him, because I talk about like how I do that with my kids. And she's like, every morning he picks a random one and he like tries to do it and he loves it. So I'm like, if someone like that loves it, that makes me pretty happy. And really my kids have loved it so far. So, and they always like, right now I posted out in my Google Classroom, and then I sent it home with kids who don't have internet. And like every day I'll get like 3 or 4 videos of kids. They're like, hey, Mr. Sharp, this is what I made. Cool. And stuff. So it always makes me happy. And then right before quarantine, I actually built a Lego wall.
Oh,
and I was
awesome.
so excited to use it. I built like you guys probably saw, I built like a Mario on it.
Yeah.
It took me like a day, but I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever made by far. And so
forget the smoker. It's the Mario on the Lego wall.
I told my wife, I'm like, I'm really proud of that. And the worst part about it was kindergartners are really honest. And there was one kid that's like, that's a cool Mario. And then another kid's like, that looks nothing like Mario on my video game. I'm like, that's because you have the new ones. This is the classic.
Right. This is classic, like. My friend.
Yeah.
And they didn't believe me, so then we were Googling it. But yeah, so
that's 64-bit Mario.
Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, those cards seem to be pretty popular with people on my store. And personally, I like them too, just because I think it's like one of those things, even if you don't teach a lot of STEM in your classroom, I tell people this is something that you could set 2 or 3 Lego bins to the side, put these cards like in a little box, have them draw one. And I always tell teachers, you could use 15, 20 minutes at the end of the day to do some maker stations.
My son used to spend 2 to 3 hours.
Oh yeah, on Lego. Yeah.
When he was Spencer, when he was like 2 or 3 years old during the summer, that's how I would get work done. Like I would get work done during the summer for the school year, because at 3 years old, I'm the stay-at-home dad. To get a 3-hour worth of chunk of window, like of time, like, okay, here's my set aside money for the summer went to like a Lego kit a week. Yeah. And like,
that's awesome.
You needed the Lego club that Spencer had where they were sending you something every month.
I don't remember that. Like I was into, I guess constructs, I think they were called when I was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or connects. Were they connects or
constructs? No, they were, the constructs were different than the connects.
Okay.
And I do like I like the constructs better. They were like gray and had blue,
like rods,
blue connectors or something like that. So you could and then there was something, maybe it was the Connects ROM that had the pulleys and everything where you could really do like machines.
I had those. I loved those. Those were cool.
And that was it. Like the constructs came in. So I think as a kid, I had the Lincoln Logs, which I thought that stunk.
Oh, you didn't like Lincoln Logs?
I wasn't into Lincoln Logs.
Come on, man.
How many log cabins can you build?
You gotta get creative and build an addition on and a 2-car garage.
Well, that was it, man. When those constructs came out, it was like, whoa, you didn't just have to put them on, like, branch out. So I think that pulled me away from Legos to get into that. And then when we were in Southwest Philadelphia, and we moved across the bridge to Jersey. I always thought my dad I had a huge play school plastic football was my toy chest. And I always thought my dad hated all my toys. And hey, I'm on a podcast. Can you keep it down? My mom comes over and, ruins everything. And so I thought my dad on the move threw my toy box away that had all my Star Wars and stuff. The movers lost it.
Oh.
And so I'm 40 some odd years old, and we moved when we were 8. For the last 30 some odd years, not that I resent, but I thought my dad threw my toys away.
Joe was in therapy for the last 30 years over his toy box.
I had a huge breakthrough the other day on the couch.
So yeah, what were some of the other, things that you have on your Teachers Pay Teacher store?
So one of the ones that I've been doing and like I had a lot on social media about, I want to write a blog post about it, maybe even do a video, is the Rube Goldberg one. So the kids really love that one. I had the video the one day where the kid
I saw that
stairs and he built like a ramp, and then one girl built one to turn her lights off.
Yeah. And
I think that a lot of people, teachers in general and students love it because you can use anything in your house. And I know like I built one in my house, and I was just probably driving my wife nuts because I'm just like pulling random things and doing like all kinds of crazy stuff. And
was that for third grade? Was that for third grade, the Rube Goldberg? Because
third grade
it pushes and pulls in gravity. Yep, do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Do you know there's Rube Goldberg toys?
Yeah, I saw that online. That was awesome.
Well, by the Target, what did I get into that? 2 years ago, I think our science curriculum came up. Target had them on like clearance. I was going in and like just like you said, they're like random stuff and around the house. But like the toys, it's like rent like a raft. Like I'm not going to bring a raft into the classroom, but now there's a little raft with this toy set, and I mean,
it's so much fun, and it's cool just to see what the kids come up with.
Right, how creative.
And I've had a lot of people write reviews or email me and being like, "Oh, look what my my students came up with," and stuff. So I think that part's just really cool because it's one of those. Lately, I've been trying to. Like I'll just sit down for like an hour a day and just think of some cool projects that are, either remote learning projects or something a kid can go outside and do that's fun.
Yeah.
I know my wife keeps on talking to me about how I need to make a slime project. I don't know if I want to make parents that mad, as I know that's going to get messy. And I'm like,
I don't like slime. I don't like slime, and I don't like glitter.
See, that's the number one thing I don't have in my STEM room that people give me a hard time about. Like parents come in, they're like, "Why don't you have glitter?" I'm like, I hate it. I hate it.
And not only that, it's so hard to clean up.
It is. And I'm like, I just don't want it. And they're always like, well, you could use it for this project. I'm like, I could. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But I could.
I like to say, what if we didn't use glitter? Like, our custodian is really great. And I do take care of my custodian because I know when we have those maker days, like he comes in the room and Ron knows him. It's Robert. He comes in the room. He's like, and I always try the worst. And I asked him like, "What's the worst?" And he said marshmallows are the worst because we have carpet in our room.
Oh, okay.
And between the carpet and if they get mushed into the carpet, the marshmallows, it's just. They're going to become a permanent fixture.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
The glitter just goes everywhere, and just, I mean, I'll come home and I'm like, yo, what, like,
glitter everywhere.
It was all glittery.
and Stacey would be like, "Where'd you go after work?" I'm like, this happened in the classroom.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely think like with a lot of the remote learning projects, like the Rube Goldberg one, I did like a paper bridge one recently I put up there. And lately I just been thinking about different ways that like materials kids will have at home. That way, they're not left out just because they don't have something. And a lot of times too, I tell the kids, like I got an email the other day, a kid's like, "Can I use, this material instead of this material?" I'm like, absolutely. Like use what you have and make it the way you want to make it. You're not going to, that's not doing it what's going to keep you from trying, learning, and failing and being able to apply that knowledge rather than not doing it at all because you didn't have tape.
For your Rube Goldberg cards, are you saying like try and make a machine to do this, or like try and use this, and this to do something? Like, is it specific, or is it just?
It was the one I posted online was actually pretty open-ended. I'm thinking about going back and changing it because now I'm getting kids that will do like 1 or 2 steps, whereas maybe I want it to be so many chain reactions.
That's what I was thinking, like, because like I said, we do it for 3rd grade, and I did a flip grid thing for it. And
yes, I did that too.
I'm almost like I've been seeing some things with gamifying. We've been trying to gamify our math lessons for fractions and divisions. Like, hey, here's the lesson, but then you get extra points for doing this. And I'm trying to entice them 25 points to make a Wii video on how to divide. But everyone's doing the stupid little 5 and 10 point, so I was thinking just that, you get X amount of points for this many steps, or then, taking it to the next level gets you 10 points.
Right. I like that.
With the gamification and everything, one thing Stacy works for a lobbying firm. So I always run my ideas by her, and I always, show her my videos, and she's like, what's the point of the game? And I'm like, well, we have a teacher in 4th grade named Mr. Weller. So the point of this game is to beat the evil math overlord, Mr. Smeller, who's a 4th grade math teacher. And she goes, but what do you get if you win? I'm like, you win.
You win. Yeah, you win.
I don't know. Like, what do you get if you win a video game? You freaking win.
You win.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
And that's kind of how the Rube Goldberg thing actually kind of started, because I had a bunch of kids actually email me. They're like, I'm doing my remote learning. I'm so bored. So I posted on all the Google Classrooms, like this curriculum I made. I said, if you build a Rube Goldberg machine, I'll give you 5 bonus points, even though pretty much all of them have like A+ at this point,
Right.
But then they're like, oh, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get my family involved. So I got like all these emails from parents, like a whole family, doing them together. And that's why I was like, maybe, next year I require it and I say, hey, you need to do this many steps. Right. Because some of them, I mean, granted, some of them probably did them by themselves and other people probably had their parents help them. But some of them were like really complex and really cool. And then there were some that I was like, okay, that took you just like 10 seconds.
Right. Well, and I think that's, what you do is if you do gamify it, you know what I mean? That's how many steps you have is how many points you get. And,
right.
Well,
something like that.
What I like every time we do something in class, like with Ron's lab, I'm always like, hey, Ron, we just ran this tournament. Can you get us like a 3D printed
trophy or something?
Trophy. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And Ron has, he's provided, a couple of them, because we will run during that RTI time, a multiplication tournament, a division tournament, and it's awesome to have. And you said before you have a printing pen.
Yeah, I got pens, 3D pens. Yep.
Yeah. Just to have something, I guess at 8 years old, that could be the carrot, because those kids, and that, I mean, it's like this big, it is like, well, Ron, is it 3 inches or 4?
Yeah, maybe 3 inches, but you know what it is? It's 3D printed. So that's what makes it exciting. You know what I mean? It's not the trophy.
We have a little stage that we built in front of the classroom that the kids own, and the kids are all, they'll raise a question. They're like, can I go up on the stage? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And they get up on the stage and they get the class's attention. So when we present the trophy, man, I get up on stage and I call the little kid up on stage and I'm like handing him the trophy.
Hold the 2 handles on the side, right?
They eat it up.
Yeah.
They're all about it. And you know what? If that's what's going to get the, and the kid that won the multiplication is an EL. Well, he's not. His parents speak Spanish. He's not ELL. He does have a deficient. He's a language. He's a language deficient student. So it's really hard for him to understand things. It's hard for him to take his thought. He crushed it. The kids couldn't touch him. And when his stick was getting drawn, they were like, "Oh God, I passed." And it was cool to bring him up there, and so we write the little note in the agenda, and then I go to Google Translate and put it in there, and then write it in Spanish, and he's and then the note comes back. Alex is such a good boy. I'm like, he is a great boy. But that's it, and that's what's. It's cool to be hooked up with like teachers like Ron that that push the same thinking and like they go to his class, and I mean I started the whole Spark project in my class because when he first started teaching technology, it was supposed to be an extra special for us, but like Ron and I were pretty tight, so I'm like, it's your first year teaching. I'll hang out and, I'll be like, I'll sit back, just, not that he needed help with discipline, but 2 teachers in the room when kids are on computers and stuff
helps.
And most definitely. So then they're doing things and I'm like, damn, can I let them do this, during RTI? And they were like, sure. And it rolled into like a part of our RTI program. And last year him and the other technology teacher wrote grants for Spark Carts. So we have snowball mics, we have cameras, we have makeys. And
That's awesome.
It's really cool to see that take over. It's really tough though. Our district does put a lot of weight on scores and
yeah.
scores. And I guess the data shows if you do this stuff, your test scores probably aren't going to go up. But your results are different than that data shows.
Yeah.
And I know a guy I referenced before, Glenn Robbins, like he even said when he did our design thinking seminar, one of them that we sat through, he goes, you know what, your scores are probably going to go down, but do you want test takers
or do you want
kids that can that can think on their own and problem solve? And that's one of the things that my Dylan's football buddy's dad was saying, like, these kids are coming out of college through an engineering program, and these jobs out there, firms have to reteach the guys how to think.
Right.
And that's it. Like when you say this is the right answer, like everyone's got the right answer. I have a third grader who's got an iPhone better than mine,
right,
and 2 Apple Watches. His second one came because he lost the first one. So like, what's the common weight of whatever? Well, I don't know, but let me ask Siri. So it's like, I'm a big pusher. Like, who cares what you know? What are you going to do with it?
Right.
How
can you use it?
Right. That's what makes you successful. Not that I know
agree.
The atomic weight of whatever, because I failed chemistry junior year. So.
Up on the epic failure board again.
When we sat, my son's in 8th grade, when we sat through his science back to school night, I was like, holy crap. Like, she did a Quizlet with us, 12 questions, all 12 wrong. And of course, I'm in the back. Like, I think that's why he has such a hard time with science, because I got off, like, I was in the back being that problem child as an adult. So like, and shouting out wrong answers and being disruptive. So to me, it's not funny. Guess what teacher he had a problem with over the remote learning? But that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, right.
About,
No, but I definitely agree. And that's like one of the biggest things too, is like your different ways of thinking like that and stuff. And I mean, back to what you're saying about making it even, some things you can't make them as applicable to real life as just making it like a game or fun. Like I know for Christmas, I had this on my teacher pay teacher store too, but people usually buy this during Christmas. It's a sleigh unit. So kids build a ramp and a sleigh, and I have a competition, and I announce the winner over the announcements, and they share a box of candy canes.
Right.
Which, funny story about that is, the first year I tell my wife, like, buy a box of candy canes, and I figured she would buy like the $1 box of candy canes, and she's like, I bought the ones I want. It was like the real expensive, like Sour Patch Kids.
Oh
yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? So every year the kids that are younger that are going to do it because they do it in 4th, 5th, and 6th compete against each other for it. And they're always like, are you going to have a good box of candy canes? I'm like, now that you brought it up, yes, I will have to do that again. So
do they make a real like legit sled and a ramp to?
Well, they use cardboard, and I one thing I have like a bunch in my room is Make-A-Do's. Have you guys heard of those?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So they have like where you put cardboard together with cardboard screws. And last year was the first year that I actually limited how tall their ramp could be, but everything is based off of speed. So I'm like, well, if your ramp is X inches tall, you still got to cover this amount of inches going down. And we learn about how a lot of times the kids learn about friction, losing speed to friction, potential being converted into kinetic energy. So really, like, it's one of my units that's most packed, honestly. Oh no. Can you guys see me?
Yep. You're
okay.
There.
Yeah. One of my units with most packed with like standards, I would say, but it's like the kids' most fun one that I do for like a month and a half.
That's awesome.
So just making it like a game like that, like you were saying, like even my kids, like I did at the one time thinking like I might get one more kid to care. And it was like, no, everybody cared about a box of candy canes.
Yeah.
Even if you just make it a competition.
Yeah.
At times, like that changes everything.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's even in the shoes, the Shoes for a Cause project, they started to get competitive over the bidding. You know, because
Oh
we
yeah.
had that, what was it, Tracy Nicole Smith on Twitter. I mean,
Yeah.
she wound up with $150 for the one pair of
Yep.
slides, you know, and then actually wound up paying $225 in donations,
Wow.
you know,
Right.
for a pair of cardboard and, you know, foam slides that probably didn't fit.
Exactly. And that, I mean, that's so cool for the kids because now they're like, oh, look what I made. I made something that's awesome and it helped
Yeah.
this. And it's,
Well,
you know,
she
legit.
had them on the other day on Earth Day. She took a picture
I
of
saw
them
that.
and
Yeah.
tweeted them out, you know.
And you guys didn't have them make websites to like to try and promote their own.
No, well, we made one
No.
big website.
Right.
Yeah.
I made a major website because we were having, you know, the Google form was on there for the bidding to happen. And,
Right.
you know, so it was a little more in depth.
Yeah. I think for the years to come too, from what I've heard from people on Twitter and you have probably, I mean, there's a lot of classrooms like, let us know when you do this next year together because we want to do it. So I'm hoping next year we can do like some Zooms and we can get more people involved, raise more money. I think it could be a big deal and be something really cool that you see in a lot of states. It's on my store for free too. And I get people constantly being like, man, this thing is jam packed. I could do this for 2 or 3 months. I'm like, exactly. Like, that's why I put it on there for free. Cause I feel like it's something, you know, we're passionate about and we spend a lot of time doing, and we want more people to do and help, you know, raise money.
Well, yeah. And I think what we'll maybe, you know, in the fall connect and then do it as a winter, you know, if we keep it as like a winter activity, it kind of works out.
Definitely.
That'd be cool. And then we could start to promote getting other people involved, set up some kind of Google form or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Teachers to get involved. All right. Well, we've gone over an hour and a half.
It doesn't feel that long.
I know, right?
Just, like, hang out with you guys all night.
Yeah, right. If you had ribs and we all had ribs shipped to us, we could be, you know, like this.
How long? What's the drive to Indiana from Jersey? 5 hours? 6 hours?
That's what I think so. One of these times I need to come visit you guys. You guys need to take me to get some burgers and
yeah.
Are you a Hoosiers fan? Are you into like Indiana basketball?
So real quick, I'll show you. This is on my wall right here. If you can see that. So this is I'm a pretty big Notre Dame fan. This whole room is decked out in Notre Dame stuff. I did a wood pallet wall when I first moved in. I live on a farm, so I just went and took a bunch of pallets. I live on a pretty big farm actually. Yeah, so
that's pallet wood.
Yeah, I just went out there and I cut them up and I sized the wall up and I did all myself. I actually did a wood pallet ceiling in my daughter's room too.
That's awesome.
Is it untreated or do you put what's that, like not olive oil? What's it, like turtle oil or something?
People do that. I didn't do that with this one. No, I sanded them a little bit if they were a little rough, but like even like this piece here, it looks a little rough, but it kind of looks cool just because it gives it character.
Yeah, that's cool. I got a blank one in my garage that's in really good condition.
There you go.
But you would need a lot to do it. You know, I got one. I like to do the palette. Like I have a couple palette flags and scarecrows. Like I like spray paint. So, you know, like it just gave us something fun projects to do. So that's cool.
Yeah. I did the wall, I did the ceiling upstairs, and then I did a chair for my wife, like a mega chair for our back patio. It holds like 8 people.
That's awesome.
8 people?
It could probably fit about 6 to 8 people. It's like huge. The cushion we got for it, we couldn't find a cushion big enough because I built it for her for our anniversary. So she just bought a dog bed to throw on there. So it's pretty big, but like I bought like 4 beams or like 4 or 5 beams, and then I used the base for pallets in the back. But like the arms and the support is like big, thick, like 6x6 beam, like nice beams. So
that's awesome.
Cool. I like doing wood projects, and I kind of started doing those when I became a STEM teacher because I'd always tell the kids, I'm like, look, I failed at this, and I had to go to Lowe's and buy more wood and embarrass myself in front of the whole store.
There's that epic failure board.
Exactly.
I think wood is the most forgiving medium, you know, to build with and everything. So that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'll have to come down and hang out with you guys sometime for sure.
Yeah, we'd love it, man. You got dinner on us. Come on down.
Yeah, most definitely.
Oh, hey, I like that.
Spencer, where can people reach out to you if they want to get in contact?
Yeah. So the nice part is SharpBldr was kind of a name that one of my buddies came up with and the logo. And for the most part, I'm trying to take a screenshot so I can post this on Twitter later. So I did. You guys look nice. SharpBldr on all social medias. My website, SharpBldr. The only thing that's not is my email is sharpthebuilder2020@gmail.com. And I always